In this lesson, we'll continue exploring working with bones in Max. Okay, so we have our chain in place on our right side. So what we'd want to do then is go ahead and mirror this over to the left side. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. You want to select the root bone. Okay, and let's say if you weren't even actually at the root bone when you select this. Let's say the root bone was hard to get to. I'll go ahead and select bone 2 just to show you this. You could always use page up to move up in hierarchy. So now we're at bone 1. And then page down will allow you to move down in hierarchy. Okay, so we want to get to bone 1. And from there, we'll go ahead and hold down Control and press page down to grab the entire chain. From there, we can go ahead and mirror this chain over. Alright, so we can go ahead and use this offset to kind of slide this over. Or, I'll go ahead and zero out the offset, choose OK. Make sure we just have the root bone selected, so I'll press F3 to go to wireframe mode, select the root, and go ahead and again put in the reciprocal in the X axis. Alright, so making sure you have your move tool activated, you'll go to the X axis, put in a negative 6.214 in my case, hit enter, and now it's mirrored. Alright, great. So we're not going to go too far into setting up our bones. The reason why is because we'll actually have a limitation where the bones will separate. There is a way to have the bones stretch, but that's much more of a complicated setup. And we have a simpler solution for the cable stretch, which we will get into very shortly. Alright, but I did want to show you a few other things with bones. Alright, we can color code them by using the gradient tools in our bone edit tools dialog, or bone tools dialog. So let's say if we wanted this left chain to be blue and to have a gradient of blue down the chain. Well, you'd simply select the first bone, go ahead and hold down Control, press page down to grab the entire hierarchy, and now you can go ahead and choose the start color. I'll make that a darker blue. And then we can go ahead and choose a different end color. I like to use a lighter blue for that. From there, if we go ahead and choose Apply Gradient, now, if we were to go ahead and press F3, notice we have a gradient applied down the chain. And you don't always have to select the start bone. You can change the color of these bones to whatever you want, and you can apply a gradient to however many bones you want in your selection. Alright, so you don't have to go to that start bone at all. Alright, so that's basically how you can apply a gradient. Now, what I did want to also show you is how to add flexibility to this bone chain. And we could use a spline IK solver for that. So we've been picking on the right side a lot. Let's go ahead and work with this left side. I'll go back to wireframe mode. I'm going to close out the bone edit tool. And now, if we were to select our root bone, we can head over to Animation, IK Solvers, Spline IK Solver. So this is what's going to allow our chain to curve and bend. I'm going to go ahead and now from that root bone that we had selected, I'm going to go ahead and drag to our end bone, which is called a nub, and I'll go ahead and add the Spline IK to it. Now it asks for one more thing, our curve. We could either select that curve now and add it to the Spline IK, or if we were to just right click, just leaving our Spline IK, we could always add it later. Okay, so notice we have the Spline IK goal, and unlike the high IK solver, okay, or the other solvers that we have here, the Spline IK goal is not to be moved. Alright, because of how this solver functions, giving us the flexibility. So again, it's not intended for us to move this Spline IK goal. Alright, but what we want to do again is add that flexibility to our curve. So what we want to do is go ahead and scroll down in our motion panel until we get to Pick Shape. So here's where we determine the curve that's going to deform this chain. So I'll go ahead and choose Pick Shape and then choose the curve. Okay, notice it has been added to the Spline IK solver, and also notice this. The curve selected, if we were to head over to the Modify panel and go to, let's say, our vertex subobject, notice selecting one of our vertex points can start to move this and it will deform our bone chain. So this is great, but watch this. As I start to pull this point up, we're going to run into separation. Okay, so that's what I was talking about. Notice how that chain is separating from the engine. All right, so in this case, using this chain will not be ideal. All right, and again, there are ways you can set up stretching in this chain, but it's more complicated of a setup, and we won't discuss it in this course. All right, so just wanted to show you these things, and we're going to go ahead and stop the lesson here, and in the next lesson we're actually going to get into the setup that we will really use for the cables. So instead of exploring bones, we'll go ahead and work with curves.